What I came to kind of understand is that I do have that understanding and fear of the risk to be able to understand how to create a margin within a market that maybe didn't prior exist. I'm not able to separate my personal and business. When I partner with people, I become attached to the person too. The two larger ones failed. So it's still hurtful, honestly, because I lost a friend as well.
If you were to go back 10 years, what advice would you give to the younger Carlo?
I'd go back even further.
So Carlo, thank you so much for coming to the podcast today. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I'm really inspired by the growth that you've had in your business in the recent years. Take us back to day one. How did you start off?
It's a long story. I got hurt. I broke my heel, and I couldn't do a job that I was in for quite some time, and so I started playing a video game. But I didn't really enjoy the video game. I liked the aspect of the economy within the game. And so I started buying and selling things within the game and became very wealthy in the game, to the point where people were sending me real money. And I won't go into what exactly happened, but I had to stop doing what I was doing in the game because it was apparently affecting how the game was being developed. And I helped the developer price items within the game because I had an inherent knowledge of what a good buy and sell price was. And that was the business I had built within the game, of buying things from people who no longer needed it and selling it to lower level characters within the game and making this profit within the game just for fun. But people valued those items to the point where they would start offering me real money. And so it was crazy. So I stopped doing that and was sitting around having a glass of wine with my wife and my best friend and talking about what had happened with this game. And my wife said, well, why don't you do it in real life? You obviously know how to do that. I'm like, what do you mean? And she actually suggested golf equipment because I had bought a driver on eBay and sold it to somebody, a local guy in Moose Jaw, and I made money on it when I sold it to him. And I said, well, yeah, but that's just because I didn't like him very much, just as a joke. But what I came to kind of understand is that I do have that understanding and fear of the risk to be able to understand how to create a margin within a market that maybe didn't prior exist. Buying something that someone no longer wanted, which is the basis of so many businesses.
Right.
And then finding out what the fast sell price of that would be, what a slow sell price of that would be, what kind of margins I would need to sustain the risk. And so I started with some money written in a check from my best friend to say he would be the money behind it. And he's got more money than brains, obviously, to do something like that. But that was in November. I did a couple of sales in Moose Jaw, and a garage sale and another. And
what year was this?
It would have been November 2005. Yeah. And sold like $30,000 in November. With a decent margin, nothing crazy, 29,
Right.
And so you do the math on that and go, what the heck is going on here?
Right.
So I'd tapped into something that there was obviously some sort of a demand for that surprised me. I was in university because of my injury. I couldn't go back to my former job. So in university, I used this as a class project to build a business plan and to develop the business in general as to where the direction it would go. And but I had no idea what we were really doing, and what we did was create a market that hadn't existed. We had looked at the Stats Canada numbers for golf equipment in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, how much is spent. And I thought, well, if I can get this percentage of that, maybe I can make my mortgage payment and do this as a side business. That'd be fun, and something that I enjoyed. Well, what happens when you do what we do as a liquidator and then basically stabilizing and organizing the secondary market is what we really did, is that the revenue was, in our first year, I was open 15 hours a week because I was still in university. So I was only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, noon to 5, because that worked around my classes. The revenue we made that year was more than the StatsCan number for all of Moose Jaw to spend on all golf equipment. I didn't understand how that was possible,
Right.
but in having tiers of trade-in as they were coming back in, so I would buy some high demand items from people that I'd formed phone and relationships with out of some of the larger eBay sellers in the U.S. Interviewed them and spoke to their level of CEO and said, hey, if I buy 100 items a week from you,
Right.
How could we get them up to Canada? What would the shipping be? Would you give me access to your lists before you put them on eBay and that kind of thing, which created a margin there as well because my shipping cost was less because it was coming in bulk. And so it gave me some potential to make money there. But as people would buy that higher demand item, they would trade in their older item. But I also had an understanding of what it was worth. I used some of the value guides that existed in the US to give me a baseline, but in general, I found I was able to pay much more than those value guide values and still make margin selling it face-to-face, as opposed to online without the ability for somebody to try it and look at it and feel more confident in their purchase. And so that really gave, the start of the model of where we sell secondary market face-to-face rather than online like everyone else does in this industry, in the liquidation business. And that kind of spread to, well, I should learn how to fix golf clubs. Well, I should learn how to, maybe understand somebody's swing well enough. So I took, at the time, the Golfsmith level 1, 2, and 3 training, which is like very basic to help people with their swings. And then just through helping people, found myself getting a little bit better at doing that. And then I started hiring actual pros, people who could play the game far better than myself and had training in how to teach it. But that kind of gave rise to another aspect of the business that you're not just buying a used golf club, you're getting a used golf club from a professional, from somebody who understands how it's going to be better for you.
Right.
So it's like shopping on eBay at similar to eBay pricing, but having the confidence being built as you would being fit. And that was a very powerful combination where that creates a lot of confidence. And then the fact that if they weren't happy with it, I was a brick and mortar store. Come on back. We'll find something else that works better for you. And that was really through that confidence that we gave people that gave rise to the demand. And then the demand then forced me to find ways of getting more and more supply to meet that demand. Right. And now we need a second store, and let's sell on eBay ourselves now, and let's see if we can't build something that is bigger and better.
So it's interesting that you leveraged eBay because that was one of the most dominant marketplaces back then. And I know in 2005, it was one of the top websites on the internet where you would go and you would buy and sell online. What are some of the next steps that you took to launch your other stores, and how did the trajectory of your business growth take from there?
Oh, I mean, there's been lots of stages in between there.
Yeah.
So at the time, I dabbled in eBay, ended up that one of the guys I was buying from in the U.S. in Kansas City, he had supply from 11 stores in Missouri and in Nebraska from trade-ins, and he was selling online, but his business partner basically bailed on him, and so he was at a point where he was going to shut down the business. And so I approached him and said, well, what if I can get you supply from Canada? How do we make this work? And so I ended up owning half of his company for a few years down there, basically as his supplier. So I would I didn't have the supply yet. I just had the idea of the supply. But I went to Golftown in Toronto to their warehouse, and I'd been purchasing things from them that they were listing on eBay at the time. They were selling stuff, their own trade-ins on eBay. They would cherry pick whatever they wanted, and the rest they were selling to the US. To avoid that, I thought, well, hey, I'm local. Talk to me, but they wouldn't talk to me. So for a number of weeks, I bought everything they listed on eBay.
Right.
So I'd use one of those bid programs.
Yes.
Bid a stupid amount on everything right at the end, and I'd get all 34 items every week. And in a lot of cases, I was paying less than I was willing to pay for them because there's, on average, right? One item doesn't have any other bids, and so.
That's one
but
way.
They still wouldn't talk to me.
Yeah.
They were only shipping to me every week, and that they still wouldn't have the conversation of, hey, maybe we can do something bigger. No, so that wasn't an option. So I went to Toronto and I stood outside their warehouse hoping I would hear the voice of all these people that I'd come to know very well. Like I'm a chatty person. So, I got to know their names and their things about their family and stuff. And the first day I was unsuccessful. I didn't hear any voices that I recognized, and I was standing there with a thing of Tim Hortons coffee and donuts, and it was all wasted. Well, look at me. I had some of the donuts. But I went back the next day, and I did recognize one voice. I said, I know you, Carlo. Come on in. So they were really inviting, and ended up having dinner with their guys that day. Long story short, I left after a 3-day trip to Toronto with an agreement to be the back-end buyer of all the trade-ins for Golftown. And I did that for 7 years. Every Wednesday, a number of boxes would come to our door. We'd go through them, clean them, triage them, decide what I wanted for my little store in Moose Jaw, and the rest we would ship on to Kansas City and then would be sold there. And that worked for a while until the business in Kansas City not being there made it difficult. It failed and shut down. Lost a bunch of money. I call it my eBay education, my tuition.
Right.
But I learned how to sell online in those 3 or 4 years that I did that. And at the time, my former employer had just retired from my other job. And I'm like, well, what are you doing now? I don't know. And he's the kind of guy who likes to work. He likes to be busy. And so he started the eBay side for us here in Canada. Said, well, I still have this supply. I don't know what to do with it. So maybe we could start selling it. And we did. And we got to a point where we sold, I think, 15,000 shipments in a year. So it was a lot. We only sold, the majority was going to the US, which was tough for shipping costs, and it wasn't very profitable, but it helped me get through that product and learn a lot about the online selling side, and just wanted to keep more and more of the supply in Canada because it was a lot of work to sell so much on eBay. And so that over time gave rise to the second store idea. My business partner now, Stephen, who can sell ice to an Eskimo, was a buyer during the eBay years when we were selling for about 4 or 5 years. He was living in Winnipeg. He moved to Calgary and started a small store there, doing the same thing as what we were doing. So when I wanted to expand, it just seemed like a natural progression to take over his side of the business and merge him into our business and give him shares in the greater sweet spot. We had the supply. He was shortcutting us into a store already into Calgary and somebody to run it. So it was a great opportunity for the business as a whole, a shortcut. And it's turned out great since. The growth has just been exponential really since the Calgary store opening. We lost our Golftown supply. Long story, but best thing that ever happened to us. I believe the strength of this industry is at the grass level, and green grass is what it's considered when you talk about dealing with pros at golf courses directly. And that's what we do today. Nearly 400 golf courses in Canada sell us their liquidation items and apparel and rentals and demo clubs and overstock. It's an awful lot of product that we have to move, and so over time, more and more stores were necessary to keep the same business model. And now we're at a point where we're looking to sell online again, but on our own website.
That's great.
Which is where you come into the picture.
That's right. Yes.
So that was a lot of missteps in there, but in essence, that's the growth trajectory.
So how many stores do you have now?
4.
4.
Yeah, Edmonton, Calgary, Saskatoon, and the original in Moose Jaw. The other 3, Saskatoon, Edmonton, and Calgary, are called Golf Traders. Right. That was the name that Stephen had in his business in Calgary, and I just liked the name. I think it really said everything that we want it to be. Right. And as evidence, more people bring in trades to the Golf Trader locations than they do to the Sweet Spot, the original one. The Sweet Spot is referred to and known in Canada as the liquidation side. We're the buyers. Same company, of course, but they know us as our buying side, as the liquidator, as the Sweet Spot. So it's kind of this separation. But my wife named it, so if I change the name in Moose Jaw, it'd be an offense to her. So we left it as the Sweet Spot, and I like it too. So,
well, that's a good enough reason to stick with the name for sure. And,
exactly.
And that's interesting. So, often over the course of the years, you've had successful partnerships and unsuccessful partnerships as well.
Yes.
Would you like to maybe shed some light on that as far as what makes a partnership successful? Because it seems that some of the decisions that you've made working with the right partners really propelled your business forward.
Yeah. I mean, some still hurt, I'm not going to lie.
Right.
I'm not able to, separate my personal and business. When I partner with people, I become attached to the person too, right? So when it failed, both, the 2 larger ones failed. It's still hurtful, honestly, because I lost a friend as well in that. I don't regret anything that we did in those relationships, I guess we'll call it.
Right.
Fear, the lack of fear, those things made me fearful. And we had spoken about this earlier, but an event in my life through an operation has, I think, helped my business as well in terms of removing a lot of fear from some of the bigger decisions that had to be made. And even altruistic is the wrong word, but to make decisions that are not necessarily all about bottom line. I think most of our employees would tell you that we pay very, very well. And it's through a commitment that my current partners, and I believe that it's so much better to share success with people who are all succeeding. And I would love to see all of our employees continue to grow to a point where the money they make doesn't even make sense for what they do as a job. Right. I want it to be loyalty comes from that as well. It's difficult to steal an employee when he's having to take a pretty massive pay cut to go elsewhere. And that gives us consistency and strength, and people who are truly understand and believe in our business, they're better suited to selling it. And then just in making larger scale decisions and taking on risk when you don't have the fear because you've been faced with maybe a much more important aspect of life, the life and death part of it, is that you come to realize that it's not, the money isn't the reason why we do things. And what we're meant to be proudest of is the people around you, and maybe the memory of your legacy in terms of the relationships you leave and the impact that you have on their lives is more important than any of that. So removing that fear has really been it goes hand in hand with those failures. Made the failures feel like less of a failure. And it took away the fear of future failure, which has really accelerated the growth of the business. I do things now in our business, and we do things that I don't think were ever part of the plan. We own 2 indoor golf centers now. We sell beer and chicken wings now. That wasn't part of the plan. I don't know where that came from, but it came out of saying yes to an opportunity that we thought, you know what, maybe the synergy will be, and it was. The growth we saw was incomprehensible by having an indoor golf center in the same location as a store, and then gave a venue for the pros in our stores to give lessons and to, spend time with the customer by putting more simulators in there, and an atmosphere through the summer where they have access to that has been really powerful. It's a lot of work. The restaurant business is not any fun at all. It's difficult, but we have an unfair advantage in that that's not our source of our profit. So as long as that side of it doesn't cost me money and it serves a purpose for the store side, then it works. But that lack of fear is really the thing that's got me past all those things that maybe would have pushed me down to the point where I should have walked away. Any reasonable person would have said, well, you failed. You lost all your supply. You lost more than your house was worth in an investment in another business. Maybe you should go get a job somewhere. That's what a reasonable person would have done, but I didn't. I believed in this model. I believed in the fact that I've seen it. I've seen it in the customers that keep coming back. I've seen it in their exuberance when they tell other people about our business. Like, that's pretty cool that we build something that, hey, when you drive through Moose Jaw, you have to stop at this store.
Right.
We've had people drive from Winnipeg to buy golf clubs in Moose Jaw. Wow. This isn't a one-time thing. People drive to our locations. It's become a destination in some ways. And it gives you the fuel to keep going, right? And you know how hard it is to...
It can be, yes, yeah.
To run a business and to put your heart and soul into it. It's exhausting.
It can certainly take a toll on you. And what I find is often as entrepreneurs, we tend to hold ourselves back. And usually it's the fear that they have to make certain decisions that can impact
100%.
Their business. And it's very challenging to overcome that fear. But sometimes through life experiences or some sort of event in lifetime, you get the opportunity to overcome this fear. And I see that you've been privileged enough to be able to get to that level where you overcome this fear.
It doesn't feel like...
It doesn't feel like a privilege, but...
No, it doesn't feel like this was a skill. Like I said, I have this plan, I'm going to build this. It's like, no, I failed so many times. So many ideas didn't work. And so many things just slapped me right in the face after. And just the fact that you keep pushing, a lot of it came from the employees we have.
Right.
Awesome. Like, we have people who love this business that just motivate you, like, as part of a team. The motivation for me stopped being money a long time ago.
Right.
It doesn't. It sounds crazy to say that for somebody who most of my life was really focused on money, focused on. I thought, well, if I have that, then I'll be this. There's that ladder, that hierarchy that I thought existed, no longer mattered to me after the moment that I had that slapped me in the face with the reality that none of that matters. So it's one thing to try overcome the fear, and another to actually not have the fear.
Right.
That I believe has really helped. My fear comes from now, at this point, making a mistake that hurts the people that work for us. We had an opportunity to sell our company less than a couple of years ago. Went through a whole process, 8 or 9 months. I don't know if anybody's tried to sell a company, but it's not a simple process. And the thing that kept growing with me was this fear of what it would do to the people that helped build the business. And I'm very fortunate to have 2 business partners that A, let me influence them into making decisions, and B, feeling the same way I do about most of the decisions we make, that we walked away at the 11th hour from that deal. Yes, it would have been, zeros in the bank account. But in the end, what is that? It doesn't do anything for me anymore,
Right.
And we entered that process because of one of my business partners wanted to, convert the success we'd had into something monetary. He's a younger man and had, going to go do something else. And I didn't want to stop that. So I went through the process. But through the whole process, I think he became maybe even the leader of the idea to stop the buy. So really fortunate that we have people that feel the same way. Don't get me wrong. The day-to-day grind of what we do is difficult. We deal with so many customers as we've grown that, anyone who tells you they're in the service industry, that's an easy job is lying. It's very difficult. It's challenging, and it's so the day-to-day grind gets people down, but I think beneath it all, they still see some fire. I still see that they believe in the model, and what we've created is unique, and it's a little different. And I'm excited about that part of it. But
Well, it can definitely take a toll on your business for sure. If you are I'm actually quite interested to know, because a lot of business owners, they look forward to that day where they're able to exit and leave what they have left behind and hop onto a different journey, right? But you were able to overcome that step and stick with what you have. So you must be really passionate about where you are right now.
I wish I could say that that's true.
Right.
I'm frustrated. I don't know that I would have made all the decisions I made when those moments came where I should have walked away.
Right.
If I knew what my job would be today. And I really liked meeting people and knowing what was in their bag and that they had purchased that from me and the success they had with it. And just through the macro aspect of how big we've gotten now, I've lost that. And my job becomes about strategy, and it comes about managing inventory every day. And the internal terror that comes from how much is involved money-wise, that if you make poor decisions or don't liquidate at the right price, things that can hurt our business. But we've built a business that is very resilient to market ups and downs. I don't know where the future goes from this, and I don't think that there is a retirement for me. I think I'll be doing this until I no longer breathe. But I do want, in the coming very short period of time here, to pull away and maybe be half-time or three-quarter time or something where I'm not dealing with so much of the day-to-day. I have so many good people that work for us that are passionate about the business, and a few in particular that have expressed interest in maybe buying into the business to take over the day-to-day stuff so that I can still be involved in the relationships with vendors and be involved in the relationships with our supply chain to continue the business, but not to do so much of the day-to-day that I can maybe have a couple months off a year,
Right.
Go 2-3 weeks in the winter and maybe something in the summer with my kids and be able to do that kind of thing. But that's my goal now, because I don't know that I'd ever want to do nothing.
Right.
To golf every morning sounds great, but I know myself well enough to know that you can't go from 100 miles an hour to zero. So get it down to about 50.
Right. Yeah. It's probably unhealthy to have a significant shift, in your lifestyle.
Yeah, you hear about it all the time, right? Yeah. People are go, retire, in 6 months they're gone.
They're gone, exactly, because they lose that purpose, they lose that meaning. Yeah. And sometimes it's the business that drives you forward, for sure. So keeps you healthy.
Yeah, I guess if you look at all aspects of the business, it's the relationships in the business. It's the reason to get up every morning. Oh, I got a problem.
Right.
There's this that needs to get fixed, or I got to go deal with Mouneeb again today. These little challenges. But
Right. Yeah. So if I were to ask you, like, what has been the recipe of success? I know there's many things. You overcoming your fear was a key part of the growth for the business because you were able to make certain decisions that impacted the business in a very positive way. But in addition to that, what are some of the key principles that allowed your business to scale and to grow as successfully as it is today?
I can truthfully say I never did anything in this business that I'm not proud of. I feel good about every aspect of its growth, even the failures. That I bought out a partner when he had no right to be bought out because I didn't want to see him hurt. I don't regret that decision. I don't regret believing in this model enough to really rebuild it twice from nothing as it collapsed in front of me. So find an idea. Find an idea that you don't necessarily have to be passionate about what it is that you are selling or doing. You have to be passionate about building an experience. That's the part I think that kept sucking me back in, is that I knew what we were doing was different. I saw it in my garage in 2005 when I bought $10,000 worth of stuff and sold every single item of it at a garage sale. Like, what? And in part, I learned a lot about myself too, that I like selling. I kind of always knew that, even as a kid. I was working at a popcorn stand, that I really enjoyed that. My then boss was amazed that I would sell 4 times more popcorn than the other guys that were working there. I'm like, I don't know, I just like selling it, man. I like stopping people. Hey, I just made fresh popcorn. Are you interested? But I guess that's the thing that drew me. I don't know what else to say about that.
Right. So what does that vision look like? I mean, obviously, you've been in operation for over 20 years. What do the next 10 years look like?
Stability, continuing to improve our internal processes, continuing to, it's very difficult to do what we do. We buy an item for X, the selling price of that changes 5 times in the first year you own it. And then it stabilizes after 2 or 3 years. And it sounds like a luxury to be able to write the value guide for what you pay. That's like you own a retail store, but you decide what you're going to pay for things. The responsibility in that is that it has to be fair to your supplier and it has to be fair to the market. And finding that number is the challenge on every item, understanding what its demand is, and then knowing how to manage that when you buy 1,000 of them. And knowing that if you make a wrong move in that it can really hurt you to the point where it can end your business. And that part of it is getting better and better through some analytics, through our back end, our back office that is very strong because of some of the people that have developed it for us, that are passionate about what they do, and they're smarter than I'll ever be. And trusting that's the path to stability in doing what we're doing, so that when a bad year comes, for not to find a point on, but we see it coming.
Right.
And that's what we're sharing with other people at this point. In giving seminars to golf pros, or just through conversation over and over again. When we see something negative happening in the market, we try to help them, to advise them, to create less loss for them, because I believe that partnership is stronger. And we see it every year where a pro moves from golf course A and moves to another golf course that we've never dealt with before, brings us and our services with him to that golf course because he's seen the value. And the fact that we're not out to hurt him, Right. Being a liquidator can make you feel like the Grim Reaper. But if the Grim Reaper is also giving you advice on how you can be more successful, it's a confusing relationship.
It certainly is. But I think it's for the benefit of the business overall, right? I mean,
I think it's part,
Yeah.
what we do is part of a proper functioning business.
Yeah.
I think that you can never sell 100% of what you buy in a closed market, which most golf courses are. Some have expanded into their own online sales, but that's a whole other kettle of fish. But most of them don't have a chance to get to zero. And so it's in minimizing those losses by choosing a partner that is giving you the fairest price for that, that then gives you fuel and understanding to making better decisions when you buy to minimize those losses. Maybe it's in partnering with your vendor to minimize those losses. Maybe it's in changing the items that you buy, even the brands that you carry that are less successful for you. Helps them become better over time as well. And I think it's a smart golf professional that recognizes that it truly is not a failure to sell to a liquidator, but part of a proper functioning business. I wish there was a liquidator for what we do.
Right.
That I could pick up a phone and just say, yeah, we bought too many of these. Get me out, I'll lose 20%. That I would love for that situation to be there, but yeah, it doesn't help. We don't have any ours is a bankruptcy is what sits there. Yeah.
Right. So, obviously over the years, there are economic shifts. Things get better, things get worse for the market. So how does that impact your business? I know a lot of businesses, they suffered through the pandemic, through COVID. But I know a lot of business owners were golfing during COVID as well. So how do these external factors impact your business? And
proof positive that I don't know anything I'm doing is that I thought that was the end of our business when COVID shut us down.
Right.
You have to understand the timing. We had just bought product from September to February. We were at our peak inventory. We were spending tens of thousands of dollars a week in interest on the millions of dollars of product that we had purchased from the market. And then the government said, you're shut down. It's what? Say to what now? The timing could not have been worse.
Right.
And through those 3 months where we were shut down, we made plans on how we were just going to try survive. If we ever get to open again, it's just sell this stuff for nothing, get some money back, absorb losses this year that maybe we'd had some profits in the prior years that we could wipe out by doing that. That was our stance. But then when we reopened, like you said, that's all anybody could do. We didn't know that was coming.
Yeah.
No one did. No one knew that demand was going to be where it was. The game doubled globally in a day when it reopened. It was the only safe activity people could do. And we used this saying for the year and a half, 2 years that we were in this growth period. We used to say people were buying the paint off the walls. If it looked like a golf club, people would buy it. It didn't even matter if it was the right golf club. They bought clubs that we had written off in our warehouse.
Right.
And for 5-6 times what we paid for them 5-10 years prior. Literally, we just liquidated everything, but it destroyed the model that we had built because people used to be able to walk into our store with a $500 budget and say, let's walk through the store and build a bag for my son who's getting into golf. Right. Well, that was gone. All that surplus of those trade-in items that we had, the $29 golf wedge, the $79 driver, that's just fantasy at that point. It didn't exist. And to get clubs in, I had to pay more and more for a club. For example, a set of irons that I might have paid $100 for and sold it for $189 in the past. Right. I'm now paying $279 to get it.
Wow.
Just to have something in the store to sell. Right. And selling it for $400, What? It was, and so we knew that was going to start to ease off, and fortunately it has. But what we're seeing now is the bigger problem. I've had nightmares over 20 years of this scenario happening where I believe we are today in the golf industry is that the gap between 1-year-old product value and new has grown. If last year's driver is still $600 and the new one is $800, for example, you're more likely to go, I want the new one, But if it's a $400 or $500 difference from last year's driver to this year's driver, as a person selling it, it's hard for me to say, yes, that driver's $500 better.
Right.
And so that gap is putting pressure, I believe, on the market right now, and that things have to happen to try and hold those values up, or the prices need to drop. There's a lot of pressure of people that, obviously their mortgage rates have gone up over the last few years, even though now, it's starting to change. We're seeing our interest rates drop, but the impact is still there. It still costs you twice as much for a steak at the grocery store as it did, and your wages didn't double.
That's true.
So something has to give, and it's luxury items, I think, that are going to feel that. And you don't need a golf club to feed your family.
That's true.
You need everything else. And so I think there's going to be a tough period here where we're trying to navigate. But people who are left with product at the end of the year now, this is why inventory management for golf courses especially, and for vendors, is so important over the next 2 years, to not extend themselves. This isn't the time to try and grow. This is the time to maybe refine and maybe increase profitability by making, the right size buys,
Right.
to not absorb losses on the end. And so that's what we have to do as the liquidator of that product, is pay the right price for it based on what we think the market will do. And yeah, this is a challenge. This is going to be a tough. People should be fearful of when growth happens like it did, because that it's not sustainable. It's not going to stay there. So you have to be very wary of when that starts to fall. And we've been fortunate that it's been pretty gradual, that it hasn't been this massive collapse. It didn't, drop in half as it doubled.
That's right.
So and it's because of the game, right? People have gotten into the game, and it gets under your skin, this game. It becomes a passion of more and more people. So the game I think it has a sustained growth now. We're seeing that in the number of rounds played across Canada is still way up. But we're also seeing that there's maybe some indicators that there's going to be less money spent on the product to play the game.
Right.
So,
it's interesting. A lot of entrepreneurs, they try to grow their businesses, but they don't have the right foundation to sustain that growth. And what I find is that, if you don't have the right processes or the people in place, then everything can crumble.
100%.
And I've been through that experience myself as well. And many, stories that I hear is that they grew too fast. They weren't able to maintain or manage the growth.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, their business collapsed. So what advice do you have for, other entrepreneurs that are listening to growing businesses to make sure that they can sustain that growth?
Well, first, I agree with you. I think that growing is the most dangerous thing you do.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it at the moment. The exuberance of reaching goals is exciting, but do so with an understanding that it makes you more vulnerable. It makes you vulnerable to the small mistakes that were there before get amplified. That if there was something that was costing you X, well, now it's costing you 8X. That 8X may be significant enough to actually really hurt your business. And so identifying where those losses are it's incredibly important. And, we're 10 or 12 times larger than we were 7-8 years ago.
Nice.
That's really what slapped us in the face, is understanding that some of the things that we could absorb in the past, now we can't. Now we have to be fully aware of them and have processes in place to limit that risk, right down to the nitty-gritty of it. This product or this line or type of product doesn't sell as well. It drops faster in value than this type of product does, or this brand of product. And understanding that and being proactive in understanding where the future of that brand is based on what they're doing for marketing, based on what they're doing for pricing, based on what they're doing for even how they're selling it into the market, and the volumes that they push into the market. Those things all affect that secondary market value. Fortunately, that is a skill that I feel like, and it's through fear that I feel I have that skill, and maybe right from when I was selling those breastplates and weapons on that video game that I understood what the value of that item was to people, that what I could make from that. And so if I err now, I err in giving too much because on the other side of this, I'm totally aware of the fact that even though we've built our business to the point that we're the largest liquidators of this type of equipment, that where there's profit, someone else will enter.
Right.
And if we don't take care of providing the most for people for their product, that someone will. And so when I err in paying more than I probably should for things and making margins thinner and thinner on especially demo product and rental product, first year product, we overpay for sure.
Right.
In terms of what it's worth to somebody who was going to just run a business on that. The reason our business still can absorb that is because it's trade bait. When I have that high demand item from 2024 that everybody's seen commercials for the last year, but it's $1,000. Now when it's $500, it becomes more accessible. And as that price drops, they're more willing to trade me in their current item that they're using. So I get more trades. Trades are where we make margin.
Right.
Because we turn somebody's unwanted item into something that is. We'll put a fresh grip on it. We buff the crown. We polish the soles. We clean them up. We'll even reshaft them if necessary and make them so that when they're sitting on the shelf, they have a much greater value than how we took them in. And so even though we're making less margin on the stuff that we're spending $6 million a year on, in the rest that we sell, the rest of our revenue is at much, much higher margin. And then in analyzing how that came to be, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that was why we were building our business, was to get trades.
Right.
But in analyzing that, we get on average 2.2 cycles on every trade we get. So that high demand first item, for example, he's buying a $500 item. He trades in his $200 item. That $200 item makes a better margin than the $500 item did in the first place. But then we get two other items that are $29 and $75 that make even more margin than those. And as it gets lower value, the demand goes up.
Right.
The highest demand item in our store is a $50 driver.
Right.
It's crazy. And it's at 60 margin because we went through the pain and work to get it there. It's well-earned margin. Trust me, the risk of taking that all through those stages is not for the faint of heart. But the reason why that our business is still successful, even though we're not successful in terms of making margin on the items that we buy from everyone across the country, is because of that back end. The barriers to entry to doing what we do are high. It's hard to do.
So you mentioned that this was not the original intention of the business.
No.
Right? And I think that's actually been a driver of success for the business as well, because you were able to adopt this model, this model for trading, and incorporate that very successfully.
In the past years, I've used this at our AGMs, the word bulletproof.
Right.
In that the worst thing just happened to us. We last year had to sell about a third of what we purchased at far less than what we paid for it. I've had nightmares of buying something for $100 that I can only sell for $80 and bankrupting me, losing my house, losing everything that we've built. That happened last year. And we came out of it just fine. Did we make a lot of money? No, we made virtually no money, but paid everyone. We didn't go backwards, and we survived that adjustment in value. And now have adjusted our pricing so that hopefully we can have a bit of a comeback year this year. We're still very cognizant that we can't pay people what their clubs are worth. We have to overpay for what they have, even though they complain about losing money now where they didn't lose money perhaps in the past. we're still cushioning that blow through vendor partnerships, through us stretching, because we know the demand of the item is high, so that it'll trigger those trades. We have faith in our model that lets us go forward. Like I said, we're still here because of the strength of what we do. And anybody who does this business will understand that the strength isn't trades. It's just so hard. It's so much work.
Yeah.
Repricing it. And it's, if you have one store, it's one thing. You can walk around the store and reprice everything. If you have a warehouse and 4 stores,
that's right,
and 70,000 items that are continually changing in value, it's a lot of work to continually know what to price that item at to create that same demand, to keep those wheels turning, to keep those trades coming in. It's hard, to say the least.
How have you overcome this challenge to stay on top of the markets and shifts?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's some of the people that have, when you have a bunch of people who really love the business, I remember one of my profs used to say, what's the definition of an organization? He used to make us answer this every class, which is annoying at the time. But it's a bunch of people with working towards the same goal. And I believe that that's really what we have, that we have the true definition of an organization in terms of that. Now, don't get me wrong, the day-to-day stuff gets in there.
Right.
But in general, I think that is truly what we have. We have people who have meetings without me, have meetings to discuss things, to come up with plans to make things better. I'm usually the obstacle to some of those things because I'll say no to the idea at some point, and then it crushes the dream that they had. But if I say no, it's because I've tried it. I've done it, or there's been a disconnect from what we want and what we need, those type of things. And I try to be the voice of reason in there, but I think we're still surviving, and that's the advice, is that to create a group, a core group especially, that are all working together for the same goal. That if you really have that, think of what that does. It's not just you worrying about something. It's already been worried about, corrected in a lot of cases before you even hear about the problem. What value do you put on that?
That's immense. Yeah.
Right? It's what makes you bulletproof.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Carlo, based on your journey, if you were to go back 10 years before this growth spurs that you had in the business, what advice would you give to the younger Carlo?
I'd go back even further.
Okay, 20 years.
Because really the first 10 years were not wasted, because I learned a lot. I learned how to build clubs, and I learned so much about the industry that takes just time to build.
Right.
And even the relationships and how things work in the industry, that it's not wasted. But in terms of the business internally, I could have built this now knowing what I know in half the time if I had less fear of failure.
Right.
That I'm not saying to throw money around. That's a recipe for disaster. But to actually know the path, to know what the end goal is in terms of what you create. And you don't need a crystal ball to do that. You just have to listen. Listen to your customers. Right. Listen to the people who are telling you no. Why is that person saying no? What is stopping that person from trading in that golf club? What's his barrier to entry to buying this golf club? What are the real reasons for why he won't sell me that product out of his pro shop to then I can resell? What stops that, And a lot of it is relationship. And it's a willing to put yourself out there to create relationships that then, when you give advice, is coming from a trusted source, not from somebody who's trying to profit from you or off of you. And that's, I think, where we are in a lot of our relationships now, that we are more trusted because we're trustworthy. And that takes, that took time. That took a lot of choices to not make bad choices to do things that you're proud of, it's so easy to do a lot of things that you're not. To walk away from a buy knowing that you profited unfairly, to walk away from an agreement where you know it's not sustainable, but it gives you front-end profit. I don't do that. I can't live with that because I don't value money that much to want to do that to someone or anyone or a business.
So that's a fundamental shift in perspective, because before, money was the driver.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now that has changed.
For sure it has.
So
Yeah.
that would be, I would say, the key piece of advice that you could give to your younger self.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I didn't have to go through that moment
Right.
where I thought that was the end of my life, that maybe changed that perspective. And it's one thing to think about death,
Right.
and to know, but to truly accept that that's your moment, that that's the end of your story, that's where the book, the final page happens, and you believe that that's there and you're expecting to see the next. And then when it doesn't, it changes you fundamentally in terms of what's important. I think my focus on my kids has changed that day.
Right.
Whereas this is wrong to say, of course, but that my passion and based on fear was work. I had all my risk in my work. I'd invested everything we had in my work. And so that took a priority oftentimes over everything else. And that's fundamentally flawed, because you're not a better person for having done that. You're a better person from understanding that that's where the priority should be, and that good things come by being that better person to the people around you, employees, to your family, to whatever. Yeah.
I mean, most entrepreneurs, they measure success with money.
Of course. Well,
that's the main metric.
That's what banks want.
Yeah, that's what banks want. That's what drives.
That's the business they're in, and it forces us into that business. The price of things going up forces us into that understanding and those goals. But I can sit here in front of you and tell you that I don't feel the same way about that anymore, and that's an unfair advantage, in business, and has probably been a factor in our growth. And let me make decisions based on what I think would work, rather than I can't do this because of how much it risks. If you don't really believe the risk is a risk, then you make better decisions.
That's true.
So I don't know how you get there. I wish I knew. I wish I knew how to get there. But if I can give some advice as to, and I don't feel like I'm in a position to give advice, but is that just listen to that voice inside you. It usually knows, at least that's been my experience. It knows if there's a fear there of doing something or something you're uncomfortable with, don't do that thing.
Right.
Do the thing that makes you feel good and that you feel like, I want to do that. This is what I want to do. I want to give that guy a raise that changes his life, and know that that's someone who I can then partner with and become a part of what I do, that then makes everything stronger within our business. That I want to partner with that business because I truly believe that they have my best interest at heart. They don't want to hurt me as much as I don't want to hurt them. I want to do business with those people.
Right.
And there are a few now that we deal with that I feel that way about. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm naive that that's not the case, but so far, so good. And I think that's when something bad happens, you now have a support network, both monetarily and emotionally through those times when I can't tell you how many phone calls I got from vendors through the COVID shutdown.
Right.
That, hey, we're going to be here with you after this. Don't worry about this and this expense and this money that's owed. This is all, we're going to take care of this. We'll be on the back end of this. Those type of conversations happen because we built relationships more than just a number, and it's reciprocal. So be that, I guess would be the message would be, because even if you fail and you've done things you're proud of,
Right.
then did you really fail?
Yeah. That's the big question.
Yeah.
So forging those relationships, making sure that you are able to honor those and having those meaningful relationships would be more important than money itself.
Money comes.
Money comes.
Almost to the point of when it does, it feels awkward. You know, like the first thing that happened when things started becoming more successful, well, we got to give people bigger raises.
Right.
You know, that was our response. I'm so fortunate to have the partners I have. Like I can't even. I'll get emotional if I talk about it, but that's I'm so fortunate that they feel the same way about that. That they truly recognize that we're building something together. You know, that when you fail together, it doesn't feel as much as a failure, does it?
Right.
You know, you have people that are and the odds of failure drop way down because you have so many people that are invested in trying to make it succeed. I'm bulletproof there too, right? Not just in the business model, but in terms of the risk I have is that if I fail with friends, I fail with people I care about. That's always better than, you know, failing alone.
Makes sense, yes.
And especially motivated by money only. Yeah.
And that's why I think partnerships and finding the right partner is so important.
Yeah.
You know, in building the business. Yeah.
I'm going to tell a story about you.
Sure.
And why we did business with you.
Sure.
And it was through a bad customer situation that you had with one of your customers that was not happy with the product. I know this situation to know that this was not your fault, that this was something that had been agreed to, that then they changed their mind. So a difficult customer, we'll say, right? A customer that was just, and then how you treated that was the reason why I felt like I wanted to do business with you. Over and above other businesses that are more established in what you do, that are bigger, that are, you know, for somebody who's coming into this building a website business as green as I am, I would have probably trusted those bigger businesses. But the reason I trusted you was because of a story of how you took care of a terrible situation where you rebuilt this website at your expense to his satisfaction and did so with professionalism. Like that's rare. And it told me so much about you and the people that work for you. So I wanted to do business with you.
I really appreciate that, Carlo, because, you know, that's one of the values that we really strive for. Is we want to make
it comes
sure.
through. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, and truly that's what is, it's a very attractive thing that maybe when people deal with us is that they know that we're not out to hurt them, you know? And that's what I felt from you is that this isn't a guy who's just out to hurt me. If the website isn't exactly what we want, yeah, I wouldn't expect you to redo it for free, for sure. But you'd be there to help us make it what we want.
That's right.
Because we don't know what we're doing. You know, it's you're leading the blind here. So, and they're asking me questions. Well, how do you want this done? I don't know, dude. You know, so there's a lot of trust in what you do as well. And I think that that's a core value that people forget when you can have a great idea, but to bring it to fruition isn't just about money and buying your market and doing all that. I've seen that happen and it fails because the core value isn't there. You're there just for money.
Yeah.
That can fail in time, right? If you look at all the big businesses that have been very successful, they've all had this corporate culture, even though maybe it's been lost now through just the massive scope of it. But even if you look at Walmart, when they first started, maybe they're not the same today, but the corporate culture and the idea was powerful. And the people that worked there believed it. And I think that's what you have to create. That's what you're really creating is a momentum. And sometimes it changes, you know. I'm going to sell online now with the same type of momentum and the same kind of principles. I sell chicken wings and beer now. I hope with the same type of idea that we're creating an experience for them that differentiates us from somebody else by people who believe in the business.
Right.
You know, it's I think that's it. I think maybe we've hashed it out here. We've solved the hard.
That's true. That's true, for sure.
Now just do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Carlo, it's been a pleasure chatting with you here.
too,
and where can people learn more about your business and find you online?
Golftraders.ca is our new website that you're helping us build. That's where to find us. We opened a store here in Saskatoon that I'm very proud of in terms of especially the people that we have working there. Great guys. And you'll know that the moment you walk in. And come try the experience. Come check us out. We're on 8th Street East in College Park Mall here in Saskatoon. It's our newest baby, and we don't tend to spend a bunch of money to grow a store. We let it happen over time. So you're not going to see us on TV or anything like that because we put that money into our prices, basically, to make it more affordable so that we'll come back and hopefully get our guys to help you find the right club that you've been missing out of your bag. And yeah.
Sounds good. I had the honor of visiting the store with my son.
Oh, good.
I think it was a couple of months ago.
Nice.
And I'm going to be putting my son in golfing here as the season starts. So looking forward to it.
We have some stuff.
I'll definitely be
I've
looking.
been buying for the last 3 months, and I finish up here this week. I go out to BC to do our final buys of the fall, and then stuff trickles in January. But for the most part, by mid-January, our stores will be crammed and ready for the season. So,
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
And one thing that I can surely say is that the experience I had with the staff over there, absolutely wonderful.
Great.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, like I said,
very knowledgeable.
And really, that can be said about all of our stores.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of the people that work with us. And yeah, we see it in the comments that we get from customers, and we share that amongst ourselves on our WhatsApp page, and it's because we all share in that. Like when we have a success, and that's a true success, is when somebody walks out and says, "I'm going to tell everyone about this store." Like, what is there better than that you strive for, is to have people be excited to tell other people about what you do, right? So that's the goal. Yeah.
That's true.
So I'm glad you've had a good experience.
Certainly.
It would have sucked if you didn't.
Right.
Yeah, I went in there and they were horrible to me and nobody said hi, and
That was great.
would never happen, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Carlo, thank you very much.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to Sask Entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a spark of inspiration. To catch more stories and lessons learned from Saskatchewan's business leaders, visit SaskEntrepreneurs.com. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep Saskatchewan strong. Ciao.